Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre. He's Chris. Now, fantasy football draft season is here. It's time to figure out who's going to be the running back that leads your team to the promised land. Did you know that it's been almost 20 years since a running back finished as the repeat RB1 back-to-back seasons for fantasy? Who is the guy going to be this year that could take your team to the promised land? We're going to go over our must-have early round running backs and who we think has the upside to finish as the RB1. Before we get into that, let me remind you, we're here all preseason, draft season to help you make a dominant team that's going to win. But also, if you join Patreon, guys, you'll get access to exclusive member-only content, extra videos that aren't available to the public. And we're getting ready for a regular season like no other. We're going to have live shows every week, including our start sit every weekend. If you are a Patreon, then you will have access to an exclusive Sunday morning show where we help you build a winning lineup custom tailored to your team. So don't forget to check out that information in the description below for the Patreon, and of course, join our Discord, which is absolutely free. Now, Chris, you put a lot of research into this, trying to find a guy who could be that standout breakout player this year. Why is it so important to find the RB1? I mean, is there really such a big difference between all the guys we're looking at on the board here the first couple of rounds?
Yes, it is definitely a massive advantage. And it's not just, you think in your head, oh, I have the RB2, you have the RB1, what's the big deal? No, the RB1 is even a massive advantage over the RB2. I've done the research, I've looked at it. It gives you almost a week winning advantage just by having the RB1. And we know running backs are already tough to find. If you have the RB1, the number one scoring running back, not only is that player usually in most years the top scoring fantasy player, but they give you such a huge advantage over everybody else that really, if the rest of your team is just good enough, your chances of winning the championship are exponentially greater.
Yeah, well, we've seen that, and it's easy to say, I'll just find the top running back. It's not always who you think it is, right? And everyone has Jonathan Taylor as the consensus number one overall pick, which makes total sense. We're not arguing against that. We're just saying don't be surprised when he's not the fantasy RB1 this year, because there's a good chance that it's somebody else who steps up. So without further ado, who is your first pick that you think could be that guy?
You just mentioned Jonathan Taylor, and if I said Jonathan Taylor, people would all click away and say, no duh, what's the point of this video? That's how it should be with Najee Harris. It doesn't make any sense to me that I have to keep defending Najee Harris. People come up with all kinds of ridiculous excuses for why Najee Harris can't do it. But look, all that really matters is the touches. Najee Harris, assuming he doesn't get hurt, is guaranteed to get over 300 touches and will more than likely have over 350 touches. And if you follow me on Twitter, I put out a tweet that showed over the last 7 years, there have been 20 running backs who have had at least 350 touches. I didn't look at offensive line. I didn't look at touchdowns. I didn't look at yards per carry. I didn't look at anything else, just touches. And by the way, touches are carries plus receptions. 20 running backs with over 350 touches over the last 7 years. Only one finished worse than a top 3 running back. That was Zeke in 2018, who finished as the RB5 and still scored like 320 points that year. And every single one of them have scored over 300 fantasy points. Najee Harris, other than Jonathan Taylor and a healthy CMC, those are the only 3 guys I feel confident can go over the 350 touch mark this year. And people come up with excuses why they're not drafting Najee Harris. Najee Harris should be a no-brainer, no doubt, potential RB1 upside pick. And people don't treat him that way, but I do. I've been drafting him everywhere. So has the Endgame community, because the Endgame community knows what's up. I can't wait till the season is over and Najee Harris is getting all sorts of praise next year about being this fantasy stud, and no one cares about his O-line, his offense, or his QB.
And you know what? It's exactly true. People are just trying to find any reason to hate on Najee, and I don't get it. I don't get why. But you can really cherry pick any stat or any reason you want to go against a player like Najee. It doesn't hold up, right? He is going to probably lead the league, all running backs in touches this year. And I know people are worried about the Steelers quarterback situation, and you probably should be, especially if you're a Steelers fan. If anything, that plays into his favor. This offense will run through him, and he will get a lot of receptions once again. So absolutely, I'm on board with Najee. Now, What about CMC? We already talked about him. Look, you already know if you had him in 2019, you won your league. End of story. It literally didn't matter who else was on your roster. He carried your team. All right. So, I mean, they really don't even have to make a case for him. It's just, what if he doesn't stay healthy, right? Is there injury risk? Of course there is. Now, let's go through this list. Let's look at every single running back here. Tell me one guy who has absolutely no injury risk. I'll wait. All right. Now, here's the thing. I get that he's had these problems over and over, and there haven't been major problems, and that's a good thing. He's not coming off an Achilles tear. He's not somebody who's torn his ACL. You know, maybe it's more concerning if you want to look at it that way, that he's had soft tissue injuries. That is more than one thing. But if anything, he should be absolutely fine heading into the season. And I'll tell you what, maybe they were a little nervous to roll him out there in full force after signing that massive contract, right? They didn't want to, kind of spoil their investment there by having him get more serious injury. I think that's out the window now, because not only is it year end, but also this is a coaching staff and a front office that is just reeking of desperation to win. This is a coach who will do anything to save his job, because he's on the hottest seat of all NFL head coaches. They're going to have to roll CMC out there. I think he's going to have to play through a couple of dings and maybe even injury to prove that he's worth that contract. And this is still going to be an offense that runs through him, because even if Baker Mayfield wins the quarterback job, I mean, come on, really? Are we really going to count on the passing game for Carolina win? No, it's going to be the CMC show. So, yeah, there's risk. But again, Derrick Henry, maybe greater risk there with Derrick Henry. Najee Harris, I love Najee Harris, but if he's going to get 300-plus touches back-to-back seasons, there's also injury risk there too. Same thing with Jonathan Taylor, guys. Don't tell me he's 100% risk-free. He is not. McCaffrey has just as much upside, if not more, than all of these running backs. So you can't be scared of him. Either you want to win your league, or you want to end the year with the safest, healthiest team in the league. That's probably not going to feel too good when you're in 8th place. All right. Who else, though? We know those are some top 5 running backs. Let's go a little deeper here. Who else could be the RB1?
Well, I mentioned that stat about the 350 touch running backs, and one thing I didn't mention was, since 2015, there's been, of course, 7 RB1s, because there's been 7 seasons. 5 of them had over 350 touches. So any running back getting 350 touches has a great chance to be the RB1. But one of the running backs who did not have 350 more touches that finished as the RB1 was Alvin Kamara a couple of years ago. What did Alvin Kamara have a ton of? Well, receptions and touchdowns. Who is going to get a ton of receptions this year? DeAndre Swift. Sure, you can say whatever you want about the Lions offense. You can say whatever you want about DeAndre Swift, the runner. He is going to catch a ton of passes. DeAndre Swift last year averaged almost 6 receptions per game before he got injured. That's a pace that would blow any running back out of the water last year. That's similar to what we saw, prime CMC type of numbers. And any running back in a PPR format who's catching 80, 90, 100 passes is going to be a monster and has RB1 potential, because that's a ton of free points. We're not even factoring in the yards, the potential touchdowns. And that's the other thing. People think, oh, DeAndre Swift can't score enough touchdowns in this offense. Well, he had 7 touchdowns last year in a terrible Detroit Lions offense, and he only played, 13 games? And the last 2 games that he played, he really wasn't out there as his typical self. I don't see why he can't score 14 or 15 touchdowns this year, despite this Lions offense being bad. That really doesn't matter. The opportunity is going to be there for him. He was on a great pace last year before that injury. I think we see an even better DeAndre Swift this year, entering year 3, which is typically prime running back year. I love DeAndre Swift this year in PPR leagues. I think he absolutely has RB1 potential.
Yeah, it's hard for me just historically to get behind a Lions running back, not named Barry, but I think this is the year, right? This is the year that he's going to show and prove, and I'm all aboard Swift as well. And this is a guy you don't even have to draft in the first round. He's going in the second round more often than not. Now, here's another guy who, I know this might seem kind of like an easy pick, but Saquon Barkley, he's not a first rounder. And you know what? I've seen a lot of drafts early on. He's not even going in the second round. You can get him in the third. He is still a guy who could finish as the RB1. Okay, so first of all, been there, done that, right? We know he can do it. How Health risk, I already addressed that. Okay. Yeah, there's a chance he gets injured just like every other running back, but he looks great so far in camp. There's no problems. And he's a full year now, finally removed from the ACL injury, right? Last year was kind of his getting back, his feet under him. He should be absolutely 100% by now. You talked about, that pass catching back, having that upside to catch 80 plus, during the season. Yeah, we know Barkley can absolutely do that. And they might need him to do that because I think Daniel Jones is still the quarterback there. Okay, so again, this is an offense that's going to have to run through Saquon Barkley because even though now they have some shiny new weapons at wide receiver, Kadarius Toney last year and Wan'Dale Robinson this year, rookie tight end with Daniel Bellinger, they need someone to get him the ball. And it's a lot easier to dump it off to the running back or to hand it off. And Barkley is still their best skilled player, period. Okay, Brian Daboll coming in, this will help the offense. I mean, it couldn't get much worse than last year, but now with Joe Judge and his kind of old school ways out, I think we're going to see some more points out of this offense. Look, Barkley, I think we're really overestimating the risk here as far as health. People get scared away. It's understandable, but look, this is a year now removed, as I've already said. You can't keep being scared to draft a player with his massive upside. So I will absolutely take Saquon Barkley over some of these other running backs that are available in the same range. And I've done that a lot of times. You can get him in round 2. He could be your anchor for your fantasy team. All right, let's go not too much deeper, but is there another guy possibly out of the top 10, even top 12 ADP that could be the RB1 this year?
Yeah, there is, but he is creeping up in ADP. He may be there by the time, draft season is in full swing, but it's a Javonte Williams. Javonte really checks every box you want in the overall, running back one. He's young. He's entering that second year, so he'll be better than he was as a rookie, probably. He's in a great offense, right, with Russell Wilson. His efficiency metrics as far as, broken tackles, evaded tackles, things like that identify a running back as being good, were very good last year. The only issue here is Melvin Gordon, right? But let's look at Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon is 29 years old. Melvin Gordon has almost 1,800 touches. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but Melvin Gordon was pretty good last year. And sure, he was. But if Javonte takes a leap this year in year 2, which, by the way, Melvin Gordon, go look at his year 1 to year 2. It was a major leap. If Javonte takes a major leap in year 2, Melvin Gordon's not going to look that good anymore. And the thing about teams they can say whatever they want right now about it being a split, running backs being on a pitch count. But when the game is going on and they're trying to win, the best players are going to be on the field. And I really think Javonte can separate himself from Melvin Gordon. No, he's probably not going to get, have a 3-down workhorse role like CMC or Najee or JT or anything like that. But I think he can have a 60 to 65% share in this offense. And with the addition of Russell Wilson, we're going to see an offense that runs more plays, more snaps, more opportunities in the red zone. That all points to a bigger season for Javonte Williams. And if he can really, really separate from Melvin Gordon, he absolutely has RB1 upside. He's a guy you can oftentimes get late second, sometimes even early third. And anytime he's there, I got to grab him in that range.
Yeah, I mean, this is one offense. I mean, out of probably all teams, I'm not a Broncos fan, but of all teams I'm looking forward to watching this coming year, besides the Dolphins, it's the Broncos. We want to see what that passing game finally can look like with Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Javonte. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if he can break out. Definitely has potential. All right, my last pick. We're getting a little bit farther down. Let's say you go wide receiver early, which is a smart move. Wide receiver, maybe with your second pick. You want a running back that has just as much upside as anybody else out there, but you wait till round 3 or 4. If you've ever watched or heard anything I've said before, you probably know what's coming here. It's Cam Akers. All right, now let me tell you why it's Cam Akers, okay? This is a player that has just as much talent and ability as any of these guys on the board. He's on, I think it's safe to say, one of the best teams in the NFL. All right. Now, here's the worry. Everybody's worried about Darrell Henderson, or is he going to be used, as a workhorse back? And my answer to that is yes, because I don't care what Sean McVay says in the preseason. I don't believe what any coach says in the preseason. And of course, he's going to talk up his backup, just like they always talk up their 5th-round rookies and their 3rd-string quarterbacks. Yeah, I think what he's saying when he said that he feels like he has 2 potential starting running backs is he can switch him in and out if he wants, and he feels good with what he's got. it doesn't mean they're in a strict timeshare. That's not what he's saying, because that's not what Sean McVay does. When Cam Akers was healthy and on the field, it was all him. And I think that's what we're going to see this year. He, again, maybe not a full year removed, but he is at least somewhat removed from that Achilles injury. I mean, he was able to even come back and play at all last year. That was amazing, right? But of course, he was going to look bad going against, really tough run defenses in the NFL playoffs. That's going to be tough for any running back. And then, yeah, he wasn't 100%. He should be pretty much back to normal. This guy is an athletic freak, as we've already seen. He is a good pass catcher. And you know what? Everything shows that he could be basically just as effective as an Alvin Kamara from a couple years ago, as a Dalvin Cook from a couple years ago. I really think Akers is that kind of talent. Obviously, I stand by him. You know what? Injuries happen to every running back. I'm going to take the massive discount on a guy who absolutely has the upside to be the RB1. Will it happen? I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm saying I think that I feel a lot better with him than guys like J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, James Conner. Those guys might regress. I think Akers steps forward finally and becomes a fantasy breakout player. All right, so you drafted a running back in the early rounds, as most people do. Draft smart. Pick the guy who has that massive upside that can actually help you win. Don't play it safe, right? Don't follow the crowd and pick the running back that you think you should draft at this spot, that spot. We're telling you these are the guys that could be the linchpin of your team, and that's our point, guys. We're here to help you win. Check out our other videos. By the way, we're also going to talk about which running backs we really love in the middle rounds and the later rounds as well. Don't forget to check out the description below for all the information we talked about. Join our Discord, become a Patreon, and get access to all of that extra content. All right, thanks for watching.